Hello and welcome to In the Spotlight with Quocirca, the definitive podcast on digital disruption in the print industry. I'm Louella, Director of Quocirca, and today I'm joined by Mike Scrutton, Director of Print Technology and Strategy at Adobe. Today we'll be discussing Adobe's print technology innovations, how Adobe PDF has been key to its driverless printing model, and Mike will also be discussing more information on artificial intelligence and his views and perspectives on that. So thank you for joining us today, Mike.
It's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Before we get into the conversation, could you tell us a bit about yourself and your career history at Adobe?
I joined the software side of the printing industry fresh out of college over 30 years ago now, and spent my entire side on the software side of how we do print. I spent 5 years in the UK working for various companies. One I was helped to co-found. We were acquired by Adobe. We were part of the first software team at Adobe doing print in 1997, and spent all the time since then working for this esteemed company. I worked in the UK for 10 years, and presently I'm based at our headquarters in San Jose, California, looking at how we can bring print to the whole end-to-end ecosystem, all the way from design through to the stuff that goes inside real printers, be it anything that's a desktop-based printer, all the way up to the very large printing systems and printing presses. So been embedded in this industry for quite a long time and seen quite a lot of change.
It's great to have you on the podcast today because I think a lot of people don't realize how revolutionary Adobe technology was in terms of print. And, particularly with the creation of PostScript, I think it was in 1984, and then PDF. And, it's really part of the entire content workflow today. Could you tell us a bit about the history around PostScript and how we've moved to PDF and how that's really key?
Yeah. I mean, so you're right. PDF was a creation of the early 80s. And before that, where technology was coming into the printing industry or the publishing industry at the time, everything was a proprietary system. You could go and buy a system which would computerize some of the manual processes that we're using in printing, which hadn't really changed fundamentally, for a good long time. It was about manually setting type. Hence the phrase typesetter, a bit like what a typewriter does, but doing that sort of thing at scale, let's just say. The computers came in and started revolutionizing the world. And one of the things that the founders of Adobe did was to try and think about how could we define a way which could be used to design or capturize in a computer the essence of a printed page. How do we tell equipment to print text, graphics, photos, images, and represent them in a way that could actually be printed on any type of printer? There were two major devices that they enabled to companies that they worked with. One was a company in Germany, Linotype, which used them to create film setters and basically started to revolutionize the newspaper and the publishing industry by enabling PostScript to define that page layout for high-end commercial use. The other company was a small company based in the Bay Area, another company in the Bay Area called Apple. You may have heard of them. They put Adobe technology inside the Apple laser writer, and that allowed the same language to be used to describe individual pages. And coming out of that, there has been a series of evolutions. Adobe Illustrator, the software that still exists today, was a fast follow on both of those, and Illustrator run on the Apple Macintosh. And designers could lay out precisely, where the text and the curves and everything was on a screen. Again, not a proprietary system anymore, on something you could go and buy, lay out those pages, and it would export or generate PostScript, which went to any printer which had the Adobe PostScript system inside. One of the very, very revolutionary things was the way it handled typography and fonts. Up to that point, if you wanted to buy it, you could buy printers. There are other printers available, but you had to buy a font pack, right, which you would load into your printer, and it allowed you to print those particular fonts. And you had to get the equivalent version of those fonts, maybe for the computer you were using. You wouldn't necessarily see them on the screen, right? You would see a series of letters, and mysteriously the page might emerge. This was a pre-Macintosh world. But how this sort of thing then evolved from there was that while PostScript was a great way of sending information directly from a computer to a print system, PDF emerged for two reasons. Firstly, so that you could see on the screen how something would look when it was printed. Like I said, not all computers had high resolution, had low resolution graphic screens that were usable for original design. So PDF was a screen-based display. You could print to PDF, for example, and a PDF file would have a on-screen representation of what a print might look like. Okay. But then PDF was also used as a way of efficiently transporting documents. I remember some of the very first PDFs I saw in the early 1990s, and they were brochures or catalogs that somebody wanted to share with somebody. You could copy a PDF file onto a floppy disk, and you could give that floppy disk to somebody, and they could see this thing electronically on their screen as well. Maybe they would be the people that printed it. And it began to sort of break up this direct connection between having proprietary software, which would do the design, and the printer, which would do the printing. They were both using this common language of PostScript. But what PDF enabled people to do was to take a document and move it to somebody else so that they could see it without having to have special software to make changes, because it became a viewing format, exactly as we use it today, quite frankly. You know, today you might download a text sheet or a white paper or a flyer from the internet, from the web, and you can view it exactly as the designers saw or as exactly as they intended. And that's exactly, you know, the message that came from the very, very early days of PDF as being a container that anybody can view, anybody can print, and be a very compact and efficient way of sharing information. And like we said, in the same way that PostScript enabled us to move away from things like proprietary fonts. The great thing about a PDF, even today, is, you know, a correctly formed PDF will have all the font information involved. You know exactly how the page is going to be laid out. I can create a PDF on my computer. I can send it to you. You can see it, and you get to see exactly what it was I intended, rather than your computer, you know, jumbling up the letters or dropping fonts on the floor or making the colors look different. You know, it's a very, very practical way of sharing information.
Yeah, and it's amazing, really, isn't it, how PDF has endured. Was it since the early 90s? Because I think I read on your website that over 250 billion PDF documents have been opened by Adobe products over the last year, and that's just incredible that it's still.
Yeah. And those are just the ones that we've opened so that we can count. That doesn't even count all the other PDF viewers that are out there, the stuff that's built into your phone, things that you use on the web, maybe. Yeah, it's survived very well. Other alternatives have come along, and quite frankly, gone, or disappeared into somewhat obscurity from the public view. One of the reasons for that, I think, as well, not only is it a great format. Some time ago, and the name escapes me the exact year, maybe it's mid-2000s, Adobe handed the definition of the PDF format to ISO, the International Standards Organization. So that Adobe doesn't actually own PDF today. Adobe doesn't actually make changes to the standard. That's done by committees in tall towers internationally, and lots of agreement. And you know how much difficulty there is getting agreement between countries these days. But changes to PDF are being made. It is being enhanced and improved upon. And it's embraced, frankly, I think, by so many people because it is an international standard. You know, governments are very happy to adopt it because they don't think that there's not one company in control of that standard who might suddenly hold the world hostage and stop everybody's PDFs from being viewed. You know, it's been designed from the ground up as an extensible language, and there's even versions of PDF which are designed, quite frankly, to be archived. You know, what happens if the aliens come tomorrow and take all our computers away, and all we're left with are these .pdf files? You know, some of the archive formats are designed to be easy to reverse engineer and work out what the information in them was. I don't think the aliens are coming tomorrow, but the idea of building standards on top of PDF for different industries, be it engineering or archival purposes or print even. Variable data publishing, there are standards around PDF for all of these things to further help the interoperability and the interchange of electronic PDF files between one system and another.
Yeah, no, I think it's fascinating. And I think, like you say, you described the limitations of PostScript, which were addressed by PDF. And I think it's a good opportunity now to talk a bit about how PDF is really laying the foundation for driverless printing and the Adobe Embedded Print Engine. So maybe you could give us a bit more information on that.
Yeah, this sort of thing started a good number of years ago. When I started 30 years ago, when we wanted to use a printer, we connected our printer via a cable to our computer, and information was sent down that wire into that printer using a variety of different formats, depending on what the manufacturer of the printer was. Different manufacturers had different standards. A bunch of them used PostScript, which was great because it meant you could use the same software to drive any number of different printers. The world has moved on in the last 30 years. You'd be surprised. Our connectivity changes. We don't have to connect our computers to our printers via wires anymore. Networking technology has evolved massively. We don't all sit at a desk all of the time. I don't have to use a desktop-based computer. I can use a laptop sitting on my sofa. I can use a tablet when I'm sat on the train. I can use a phone when I'm in line at the grocery store or when I'm in the park, right? I can use any number of different devices. But when I print, I still have the same fundamental problem. I want to send something from my device to my printer. One of the things that happened as these different types of computer have evolved is, again, the need to reinvent how the drivers worked back 30 years ago, where drivers existed to convert what you saw on the screen into whatever the language of the printer needed, bearing in mind it would have to be a different language for each printer. PDF has helped with that because now PDF is a common language. It's device independent. You can view it on any device. Likewise, you can print it on many different printers from many different manufacturers. And one of the leading organizations in this area as a company is a company. Actually, it's a collaboration of different industry companies called Mopria. Mopria is a company or an organization of printer manufacturers. There are other companies in there. Adobe is a member of Mopria. Microsoft is a member of Mopria. And we defined a standard way of printing on an Android phone. How would you actually go about taking the information that you see on the screen of an Android phone and sending that into a printer? And Mopria is in turn based on another technology, the Internet Printing Protocol, IPP. But basically what's happening there is we are gathering up information and sending it in a particular format to a printer. And if that printer supports PDF, then your Android phone will send a PDF file to that printer, and the printer will be able to produce it in as great a quality as it can achieve. If it's a color printer, it will print it in color. If it's a poster printer, it'll print a poster at full size with all the detail, in color. If it's a little black and white inkjet, it'll print it on your black and white inkjet. Doesn't matter, because you can view a PDF on any device. You can print a PDF on any device as well. So the Mopria protocol was actually eventually picked up by Google themselves. So actually now, if you have an Android phone, even if you install no additional software on it and you print to a printer, you'll be using Mopria technology. It's compatible with Mopria certified printers. The same fundamental idea of driverless printing exists in Apple AirPrint. If you're printing from an iPhone or an iPad or using an Apple Mac, AirPrint is basically using the same technology. If you're printing to a printer, there's a good chance that you're using PDF if it's a high quality printer. And in 2018, Microsoft released what they refer to as the IPP class driver. Technical under the hood stuff it's been there since over 5 years. Well, coming up no, over 5 years now, 2018, autumn of 2018, as an opportunity for printer manufacturers to use the same protocols, the same standards across all of their client devices. So a manufacturer now can build a printer, can put PDF inside it, can support the Mopria, get a Mopria certification, and that printer will be compatible with Android, it'll be compatible with Windows, with their AirPrint certification, which is very similar, but slightly different. You can get certified for all those Mac products. So now, very easily, you've got something which is compatible with all those different operating systems. What's useful for the Windows user is that now you don't have to go scrambling around and finding the printer driver that's compatible with your particular printer. If you connect your Windows computer to a Mopria certified printer, then immediately, even if you're on a submarine, you had no internet connection, you're 40 fathoms below the sea surface, Windows will use that IPP class driver and send the information directly to the printer without needing any additional drivers. Now, when your submarine comes to the surface and you have an internet connection again, and Windows will automatically connect to the Microsoft Store, then it can download some additional software that's compatible with your printer, and you can find out things about how to reorder ink and other such stuff that the printer manufacturer provides as well. But it's not necessary for the initial connection to the printer. You can print from this IPP class driver. What we at Adobe have been doing for some time is enabling our printer partners with PDF technology. We've been doing this now for, my goodness, over 20 years, but more recently, we've been seeing that technology, which might have been in the commercial printers, and now it's in the office printers as well. So you can buy a printer from many different manufacturers, and it will have Adobe PDF technology inside it. So we're actually ready for this brave new world of not needing a printer driver. If you're looking for a printer that has the Adobe Embedded Print Engine inside it, that you can buy from a number of different brands, then that's got the same Adobe technology inside the printer as you might have in your desktop in a copy of Adobe Reader or Acrobat, or any of our creative products as well. It's all the same technology. So it's a great way of standardizing it without having to worry about, again, all these different formats, because everything will just work seamlessly together.
What's really interesting about that is, I guess, with more printers having this PDF technology embedded, is that potentially there's more opportunities to help secure the content. And I was curious as to Adobe's use of digital rights management, or DRM. Is that something that you can apply to the content for security purposes, to either stop stuff being printed or identifying what should be printed and what shouldn't be printed?
So there's multiple levels of doing that. I mean, on one hand, the IPP specifications, the IPP class drivers and all these things as well, and technology from Mopria. First of all, they're already supporting secure protocols. So in the same way, when you're doing your internet banking, you look to make sure that little padlock is there in the address bar so that you know you're using a secure protocol. It's referred to as HTTPS. The S in HTTP is for security. So effectively, the same technology is being used to secure the transmission of the data from the client to the printer. You can't get in there and just listen to what's being said along the wire and extract the information because of the security that's on the wire itself. So that's good. The other thing that one can do with a PDF, and you may well have seen this, is apply different levels of security to that as well. So there's very, very strong encryption available in PDFs, which you can then unlock via a variety of different methods. Some people use passwords, and the strong passwords are available you can apply to a PDF. That's a very portable way of doing it. Anybody can put a password on a PDF file. You just need to have the password at the other end. People are used to using passwords. That works very nicely. There are other rights management systems available as well, which will further lock down the PDF file based on a certificate or other information. So you can integrate a PDF workflow with the authentication you have on your corporate system, for example, and enable it so that your certain employees can unlock a document and not others, and do clever stuff as well, so that, you know, if Mike leaves the company, you can revoke Mike's access to be able to unlock a PDF without actually ever having to change that PDF itself as well. So there's all sorts of additional things that one can do to secure PDFs natively, as, again, another benefit of being part of this standard file format that anybody can use for any type of purpose. You know, these sort of security protocols become available there too.
So are you definitely seeing then that your OEM partners or print manufacturers are looking to embed this technology more because of this hybrid mobile workforce?
Yeah, I mean, I was in the office last week and I wanted to print a document from my laptop to the printer, and people are concerned these days about printers in unsecured area. We possibly don't want just anybody walking up to that printer and walking away with my print. We might actually be even more concerned about the fact that, heck, Mike might print something to that printer and forget to walk over and pick it up. And actually, that's probably a bigger security vulnerability than somebody standing in wait by my printer trying to grab my paper. I'm not confident enough that the stuff I'm printing is that much in demand. But I mean, you don't really want printers, you know, full of confidential information that just anybody could walk up to and wander off with because, you know, the employees forgot to go and collect it. So there's a number of different technologies that we see printer manufacturers deploying. Very common thing is either typing a PIN number or a password into the front panel of the printer and releasing a document that way. Actually, my home printer does that. If I click a button on my phone even and say, I want this secured, then I can hide from my family, you know, the receipt for what I bought them for their birthday, and walk over to the printer and type in a PIN number, and it will then print my page out for me. But again, it can start something as simple as PIN-based authentication at the printer, right up to my office printer has a badge reader on it, and the employee badge that I use to swipe into the building, I can take off my belt, put it on a panel on the front of the printer. It recognizes me and gives me the opportunity to retrieve the documents. It prints them while I'm standing there, but retrieve the documents that I securely have printed from wherever I happen to be at whatever time. And that's also a useful system. Many of manufacturers are making that available so that you don't have to print to a specific printer. So maybe I don't know am I going to be on the 5th floor or the 17th floor when I actually get to walk up to the printer. My meeting's on the 17th floor. I can walk up, I can print to a generic print queue. I can walk up to that printer, put my badge down, my pages pop out, and I'm ready to go into my meeting.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting. I mean, we'll come on to AI in a few seconds, but I think, you know, also the fact that AI can be used to analyze the content and, you know, secure printing from that perspective. So by understanding what's on the document and if it's been tagged as confidential or sensitive, to actually being preventing it from being printed altogether. So I think there's a lot of opportunities for AI, and maybe it's a good time to sort of talk a bit about AI in terms of what impact you're seeing in general. And we can talk about this just beyond print. But, you know, maybe we need to consider first what your views are on the ethical considerations around AI.
It's really the subject of the day, isn't it? It gained everybody's imagination in the last year or two. I think personally, when I think about these things, I've spent my entire career in the technology industry. Heck, I got into technology because I was fascinated as a kid by technology, right? And technology has been around for a long time. It's enabled us to do new and wonderful things. I remember when I was doing I'm just going to date myself. Oh my goodness! When I was doing my A levels and my O levels, I'm that old. You weren't allowed to take a calculator into an exam. All right. And maybe in later exams, you could take a calculator, but it had to be one of those, they call it a 4-function calculator. You could add, subtract, divide, and multiply. Sounds like an Ed Sheeran album. You could do some basic stuff, but you couldn't have a programmable calculator that could run complex equations and things, right? So we've always had this idea that technology can be used to make us more productive or help us do things quicker, and maybe even do things that sometimes we would struggle to otherwise do. To be honest, desktop publishing, the whole premise on which Adobe was founded was about the idea that now anybody can take this idea that they have in their head, this thing that what they want to create, capture it on a screen and print it. And they could do that themselves, right? They didn't have to go to somebody else and explain to them, what do you want to make, describe it to them, have somebody else create it for them, print it for it, duplicate it for them. And that's technology in which the whole print industry has been built for the last 30 or 40 years. You could even go back further to Gutenberg, let's face it. And, we have the Gutenberg Bible. And one of the benefits that had was now anybody can have a Bible. You didn't have to rely on the guy at the front in the pulpit telling you what the Bible said, right? So technology has been enabling us to do all sorts of changes. AI comes along, and it's another technology in many ways. Maybe it's that much more powerful than the computer, in the same way that the computer that we got in our offices and homes in the 80s and 90s were that much more powerful than the 4-function calculator that I had as a kid in the early 1970s. Could do that many more things, make us all that more productive. Like many people, I take lots of photos. When we go on holiday, we're snapping away, we take lots of blurry pictures of wherever we happen to be. And we don't always catalog those photos when we come home, or delete the ones we don't like. But now my phone will tell me, oh, did you want to here's a picture of your wife on a beach in this country on this day, and it was sunny, or it was cloudy, or it was dark. And I can now find pictures very easily. We've been doing that with some of our photo software for some time, making it easy for people to find the photos they wanted to work with, to search for a photo based on the color or what was in the scene. And some of that has been AI powered in recent years. And so what we see now with the immersion of generative AI is kind of the next step. It's not just about searching things that we already have. It's about embellishing or making completely new images. And I think, it's okay to use technology. As a technologist, I'm not that creative, but AI can give me a picture of a CMYK sports car that I wanted for the back of my new business cards last week. I couldn't find a photo that was exactly what I wanted, but and I haven't got the skills to go and paint a nice decal down the side of a photo of a sports car, but the AI could generate that image for me. It can take where my starting point is and improve on it, embellish it, put things in a scene alongside photos that I've taken, or remove people from the background of that nice landscape that I took and fill in the gaps. So I worry sometimes that when I'm interviewing somebody for a job, for example, is this their original work, or, is this something that has been generated for them? And, the AI has given me, the answer to this essay question. We have to be discerning about what we look at. We have to be thinking about the citations in articles and essays, and what's the link, what's the original source information that was used to present that. But I think dismissing AI as a tool just because it could be used to create stuff would be throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's that real kind of balance, isn't it, between whether AI is stifling creativity or enhancing it. And like you say, it's all about how it can be used. And I think also, the fact we've got AI tools that can allow us to create professional quality creations and photos and images, because it's just much more accessible to a wider audience now, is great. But I think there's also the potential challenges around, like we say, the ethical and responsible use of AI as well. It's such a huge subject.
And I think one of the solutions that we have been working with in conjunction with other companies is something called the Content Authenticity Initiative. If you're using AI, We talked about how you want to source your sources. Cite your sources. Say where information came from if you're writing an article or reading something online. And one of the things that the Content Authenticity Initiative does is it's a standard where software that's being used to create content can, I'll say watermark, it's not a watermark, but apply something to the digital file that says, well, where did this file come from? Who created it? What did it look like before? How has it been changed? How has it been manipulated? And give somebody who's receiving that electronic image, photo, document, whatever, an insight into the creative process. It's a bit like saying part of this image was created using AI, and this is what it looked like without it. Right. So I think what that does is it empowers the receiver of the information and allows them to see, was it really snowing at the pyramids? Or has somebody taken a picture of the pyramids in the sand and added some sort of snow effect to it? Now, you could do that in Photoshop 20 years ago, let's face it, if you were artistic. Now with AI, maybe you just have to give some words to a prompt and it will do it. And you wouldn't have known 20 years ago that somebody had used a feature in a bit of software. Well, now with some of our AI tools where we put this information in about the origination of the content and how it's been changed, then when you're getting and looking at that image, you have a chance to actually understand where it came from.
Okay, yeah, that's really something that's needed, isn't it, to, like you say, to confirm the authenticity of anything. And is that something that's available in products like Adobe Firefly and Adobe Express? Because they're your kind of new AI-powered products.
Yeah. So AI technology is manifesting itself in many of our products. You've named two there. You'll also find it in our creative products like Photoshop and Illustrator. Firefly is our engine for our generative AI engine for generating content, and you can use it with a prompt. You can go to firefly.adobe.com. You can type in what it is you'd like to see. Cat sitting on a bridge wearing a hat in the sunshine, and it'll generate a nice picture of a cat wearing a hat on a bridge in the sunshine for you, and you can choose which one you like. And that's great. Firefly can then be integrated with other applications so that you could go to something like Adobe Express, which is one of our tools that we make available for people to create designs in a web browser very efficiently. You could use that as if you were making a birthday card, for example, you might give a similar prompt if that's what you wanted to see on the front of your birthday card, and it could do that within the application for you. But we don't just sort of stop there at generating pictures. In that sense, it's a bit of an alternative to stock photos, but we also make available in the apps as well, right? What we've done is we've taken that same technology and made it available for designers to extend and empower their own work, to make them more creative. So, for example, if you're in Photoshop and you want to select the outline of a person, right, and you want to make sure you're capturing all their hair as well, because you're going to put them a new background. I don't want them sitting in front. I don't want them sitting at the airport. I want them sitting in a cafe. Okay, then we can use AI tools to help somebody select the person in that scene and separate it from a background. We can use AI tools to help generate that image in the background that we wanted to create. We can use AI tools to maybe expand a scene. Maybe we took this photo. You know how often you see pictures on TV and somebody's taken a picture that they're using on the news, but they've held their phone in portrait mode and they want it to be landscape because TVs tend to be landscape. Then you can use AI technology to generate the expand the background, generative expand they call it. Where you can change the size of the canvas and use AI to fill in the blanks. It will fill in the extra hills or rocks or beach or whatever you've got in your scene too. So it's a powerful tool to allow you to extend your own work, improve your own work, make you more productive, rather than necessarily just if you don't have a creative cell in your body, just allow you to create images from nowhere. So we're deploying it in all sorts of places, and we're doing it in Illustrator when it comes to suggesting color palettes for designs, and you'll see it coming up in other Adobe applications, I'm sure, in the coming months and years as well.
Yeah, I think it's just, it's a very exciting time, isn't it, in terms of the technology industry, and still so much to see in terms of how AI will actually play out. And it's been really, interesting understanding a bit more about what Adobe's doing on the creative side as well as on the print side. So just to round it all off, what's next for Adobe in terms of its print strategy in particular? Anything you can share?
I mean, I think one of the things that we've seen is that COVID and working at home, hybrid work, has completely shaken up the whole of the industry, particularly in offices and enterprises. People aren't necessarily going to offices 5 days a week and sitting in a cubicle and in the same environment with the same equipment around them. So, we did see a massive explosion in the demand for A4 and smaller format printers early on in COVID. Some of that's leveling out now, but the idea that printing to any printer at any time from any place is increasing. So the amount of security that you need when you're doing that, so you know what's being printed. If you have an employee who's printing documents at home, were they supposed to print that document at home? Again, it comes back to some of the technologies we talked about earlier. The ability for employees to move around a big office. At our offices, we have some collaborative areas. We're not always in our cubes or in our assigned desks. We might be hot desking and sitting in a different place every time we visit the office. But again, the technologies with standardization, so I don't need to have a driver for that specific printer. All right, I can print from any device I happen to be using that day. And print to any printer, and it's going to come out exactly as I see it on my screen. I mean, that's kind of a technology that's a part of the embedded print engine. That's what PDF has brought to us. It's what these other technologies like the IPP class driver and Mopria have given us. Is this way of being able to work flexibly and make the tools work for us rather than us having to work around whatever the tools are capable of. And I think that's where I see continued innovation and continued explosion. We're working with more and more partners all the time, helping to bring this technology to life. And I'm excited about how this continues to evolve in the years to come.
I think, like you say, it's all about having this flexible and seamless experience for users in this hybrid work environment. And Adobe Embedded Print Engine seems to be the way forward in terms of making that possible. And we'll put some more information on that in terms of the show notes. We'll have some links there so people can find out a bit more information. But thanks ever so much again for joining me today. It's been a really interesting conversation, and look forward to speaking to you again in the future.
Thanks again, Louella. Take care.
So thank you for joining today's episode of In the Spotlight with Quocirca. For more information, please visit quocirca.com and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks again for joining, and I look forward to seeing you in our next episode.